Today, Brainworx and Plugin Alliance dropped the new Amek 9099 console emulation plugin. And if you don't already know this, which you probably do because you've probably been reading about it, but the Amek 9098i is a famous console on the level of some of the great Neve and SSL consoles, and so having this model is really, really cool. Today, what I want to do is walk you through how it sounds on some drums that I recorded. Let's do that. All right, we're going to jump right in and listen to what this plugin sounds like on some real drums that I recorded. This is not going to be a walkthrough of every feature of the plugin or a review video necessarily, but rather I wanted to focus on these drums, some real drums. I love recording real drums, and basically every project that I do has real drums on it. I do mostly country and rock records, and I wanted to hear what this thing sounded like on some drums that Curtis and I used for the latest few episodes of our Will It Les Paul series. So these are some drums that we recorded with an 80s Gretsch drum set that is here at the studio, and it sounds real good. And I slapped the plugin on here. So we're going to go ahead and listen to the track, and then we'll dive into what the plugin sounds like and what I'm using it for. All right, so let's take a look at this. I have a couple of different channels here of kick drums. I've got the inside mic, which already has a bit of processing on it. And that was EQ'd on the way in, and then of course I'm using the gate and adding a little bit more EQ to it on the way in to the next channel. This is the trigger, and the only thing that I'm using on the trigger is I've been playing around with this Little Labs plugin just to line the phase up, and I'll go ahead and show you what that sounds like. Cool, we get a little, that's cool, we get a little more bottom out of it, and then this is my outside mic. Not using a whole lot of that, but I am using the 9099. This thing sounds real good. So, all right, here we go. We've got the 9099, and here's what all three of these channels sound like summed together before the 9099. Let me also take off the parallel compression and the reverb. All right, so let's go through and check out what I'm doing here. I got the low pass filter on 11K, and I don't really know if that's doing a whole lot, but there can't be much up there above that. And I am doing a little bit of a boost, but I just was trying to keep it from getting too bright. So we've got that. I'll show you what that sounds like on and off. Yeah, barely noticeable. All right, next in line here, I've got the gate turned off since I was gating kind of at the channel level. Didn't really feel like I needed it for this track, an extra gate. It's tight enough. All right, so let's go ahead and check out. I've got this compressor turned on here, and I'm doing a couple of things. What's really awesome about this is that, first of all, you've got the hard knee button. That just comes turned on, and so I left that on. But you've got this high pass filter, and so I wanted to high pass filter the signal on the way into the compressor circuit. That's what this knob does, just so that not so much of the low end sub-E information is triggering the circuit. Try to keep it to where it's tight and maybe a little bit more consistent that way. And so that's what I'm doing there. And then I've got 71 milliseconds of attack, a little bit slower attack, a little bit faster release, or pretty fast release, and we are 4-1. And so here's what the compressor sounds like on and off. And I really like that. It's making all of the kicks a lot more consistent. It sounds really, really good too. It's adding definitely some punch, bringing up some of that whomp of the bottom end with the top there. The limiter was turned on, but obviously since the threshold is all the way up, I'm not doing any limiting there. So I just left that alone. And then really this is where the real money is. This EQ sounds amazing. And so I've got the EQ circuit on, and I'm doing a little bit of this, I guess this is maybe a shelf. No, I got the peak button enabled. So we've got an 8K peak here, or 8.6K. Let's see if that's where that starts at. Yep, 8.6. All right, so I just turned this knob up and then hit the peak button, and just trying to work intuitively. I'm not sitting here trying to overanalyze and like super think about like what do these settings do. It's a channel strip. I want to try to think of it the way that I would think when I use the console that's sitting here in front of me during tracking. So, all right, so here's what I'm doing here on the kick drum. It's really cool because, okay, so I tried not to get too aggressive with it, but I almost think I'm sitting here, of course we're listening to it in solo, but I'm listening to it and I feel like I could just keep cranking it and cranking it. Let's just listen to that, what that sounds like in the track. I had it at 3. Maybe it's too aggressive at adding 6 dB, but I really like it. I don't think it sounds bad at all. Like the more you turn it up, it sounds different, but it's never like, it doesn't get blown out or crazy sounding. The next band, not using. All right, the next band is sort of a low mids thing. And let me go ahead and solo our kick tracks up here again. And we'll listen to what I've got going on there. I was just trying to get rid of some of that cardboardy frequency. I don't know, as I'm sitting here listening to it, I'm like, man, I kind of like the way that sounds boosted though. Like it gets really, really punchy. Again, these EQs, they sound really, really good. All right, last I've got just some 60 hertz, just a tiny, tiny little 60 hertz boost on the kick here. That one definitely gets over the top, but it's because it's such a powerful, powerful sub frequency. So, all right, there we go. That's the kick drum. And then, yeah, I'm not going to worry about showing you my parallel processing. It's on there. That's not what this video is about. If you want a parallel processing video, you can tell me down below. All right, let's listen to the snare drum. I'll go ahead and turn the plate off and the parallel processing. Okay, so I didn't print my triggers for my snares. Sue me. Did a couple of things here. I've got this close snare microphone. Let me turn my groups off. And I've got it gated just to get rid of some of the cymbals. Honestly, that the hi-hat is not really coming through that much in there. That barely needs that gate. But anyways, that's the close mic. All right, then we've got the bottom snare, which sounds like this beforehand. All right, so let's talk about what we're doing there. So it sounds like that maybe I high passed this bottom snare mic on the way in just a little bit, but I'm doing it a little bit more, up to 150. Then I'm doing some low pass, 12K. Here's what that sounds like. Right, just some small little cleanup moves there. All right, and then again, got the gate off. Don't want to gate the bottom snare. A lot of ghost notes in this part, so not using the gate, but using the compressor. And here is what the compressor sounds like. And I'm using the high pass on the compression circuit to keep the low end information from triggering that compressor, trying to focus on more of where the actual tonic of the snare is, around what's probably closer like 180 or 200, something like that. But I'm high passing some of that low end out so that it's focused more on the hits, trying to keep it consistent. So here's what the compressor sounds like. So yeah, just basic compression. We're just evening it out some. Oh, and then this is what's really cool is you've got the mix knob built in. So I compressed really hard and then I pulled the mix knob back. All right, and then we've got some EQ. Let's go ahead and turn all of the EQ off. And here's what I'm doing. We've got that top band again, but it's 7K. I moved it down some, and I'm not using the peak button, so I'm assuming this is a shelf if you don't have peak engaged. Man, that's pretty. Even adding 12 dB, it just does not sound stupid to me, which I think is really cool for a plugin. I'm not using that mid band. Okay, the low mid band, I'm cutting out some of that cardboard frequency again. And no boost there. So that's all that we're doing there. And then on the bus where it's being summed, I guess you're already kind of hearing this a little bit, but here's what we've got. I'll take it off. You can hear it, and then I'll turn it back on. Let me put all of my snares in here. So we've got a sample. I got a close sample and a room sample. I'll go ahead and turn everything on. So here's the whole snare sound. Sounds killer. It's getting a lot more aggressive. Okay, and so I'm using the high pass filter and no low pass filter. I've got the compressor engaged. These are the settings that I've got on the compressor. So again, I am going with about a 60 milliseconds attack, so slower attack time. And then I've got a super fast release, still hardening, and then nothing else has been done, just bringing the threshold down until I was getting somewhere between 3 and 6 dB gain reduction. So here's what that sounds like again. Adds quite a bit of pop and punch to it, which I really, really like. And then the real money, again, is in this EQ. It just sounds so good. Here we go. So I'm adding 3 dB at 12K. I love adding 12K to a snare. I guess that's because I'm a 90s kid and all of our snares sounded top indie. Right, but that brightness makes it sound kind of almost too small. So then what I'm ending up doing is I'm going to take out some of the cardboard frequency again. So here's what that sounds like. But it needs more meat, for it to sound modern and sound like it came from this decade, not the 90s. Even though we love the 90s, they're great. All right, here we go. Here's what that sounds like. Ah, so much better. All right, so let's go ahead and turn everything back on. And we can listen to the kick and snare. All right, the last thing that I did is let's go ahead and check out some toms here real quick. I just did, I already had kind of used some EQ on the way in. So not EQ in my individual toms, just putting it on the bus. Maybe that's cheating. I don't know. We did some high pass filter, and this is where it gets really cool. This is a cool thing, especially for your toms. Okay, toms have a ton of transient. All right, so we're doing the basic EQ stuff with the high pass, and I'm taking the low pass just to help some of that cymbal bleed from after the tom gets hit to not get in the way. They are like manually gated. I went through and trimmed them all up and whatnot. All right, so here's what we got though. We've got the compressor turned on. So let me just go ahead and just solo just the toms for a sec, all right? So that we can hear. And I've got a top mic and a bottom mic, and I'm using the Little Labs phase aligner thing from UAD to line them up. So here's what our toms sound like. Right, they've obviously already been EQ'd a little bit, but we need to take them to the next level. So let's see, let's go ahead and kind of turn this stuff back on in phases so I can kind of show you what I did. All right, so this is sort of the order that I did things in. So I went ahead and I turned the high pass and low pass filter on. So that's what this sounds like right here. Right, like subtle moves. It's doing a little bit of cleanup, but it's not going crazy with it. And then the next thing that I did is I actually went ahead and turned the EQs on first. I wanted to add quite a bit of top end, so we've got that 8K knob cranking, and we've got a mid-range scoop around 370, and then we've got a 130 boost. So, and I'm using the peak feature on that. So let's go ahead and turn those on one by one. All right, and then the next thing that I did was I went ahead and added some compression. Now, I've got my release a little bit longer, and I've got my attack is pretty fast. So, you know, on kick and snare, I've got it 60, 70 milliseconds. On this, I'm doing 2 or 3, and again, that's because toms have a ton of attack, so this isn't gonna hurt anything. All right, so here's what we got here. Oh, and I'm using the high pass filter up real high, and I just did that by ear just to try to, what I was doing was trying to listen and make sure that the compressor was reacting the same to both the rack tom and the floor tom. So here's what we've got there. All right, and then I was like, why not go ahead and add the limiter? I don't think it's gonna hurt anything. So I went ahead and added the limiter to it, and here's what that sounds like. That's nice. I feel like that the meat of the tom comes up a little bit, and then of course I adjusted the fader down right here just to compensate, I guess, for the extra level that I added. So here's before and here's after. Still quite a bit louder, but it sounds good, and it sounds good in the mix. So everything together sounds like this. And here is the track again for you. All right, so that's basically what I'm doing. I like this plugin a lot. I'm gonna be using it a bunch. So, and it's great because I've got a bunch of cool records coming up that I get to mix in the next few weeks here. So, Plugin Alliance, good stuff. If you haven't bought this plugin yet, or you're not a Mega Bundle subscriber, they don't pay me to say this. I've been using it for 2 years and I dig it. You should go and check it out. All right, I've been Matt. This is Capsule to Cone. I'll see you in the next video.